Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome in. Thank you for being here with us for our rescheduled webinar. I know it worked out better for a few people. A few people sent me emails saying they were super excited that it got rescheduled, so now they can be here live. So once again, thank you for being here. We've got a really exciting speaker today, and you will learn everything and more about the XPS. So just a reminder for everybody, this is a Zoom webinar and that it is being recorded. So please remain on mute while speakers are presenting. If you want to be on camera, like Core always is, join us. We love seeing your smiling faces, and then that way we can, know you're actively participating. If you don't want to be on camera, you can use the raise hand function and we can unmute you, or you can just post your questions in the chat. We'll be really responsive. We'll try and get to everything within the time allotted, but if we don't get to everything, feel free to send member services an email after the event, and we will be happy to answer any and all of your questions. As usual, after the event, 4 lucky survey participants will be randomly selected to win a $25 Amazon gift card. We really value your feedback, so we would love to hear from you. So be on the lookout. We will post the survey link in the chat near the end of the event, but we will also send an email with the survey link right after the event today. So please participate, and you might be one of the 4 lucky winners. Now, coming up on October 20th, we've got some really exciting news. We've got the Dell Community Solutions Summit, co-hosted by the Dell client community as well as the Unified Workspace community. This is an all-day event from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. You will hear some amazing speakers. There will be some great content. We are just really excited on the Dell client community team to be able to host this for you. We've got a lot of fun stuff lined up and some special speakers. So keep on the lookout. We've got the event posted. You can see some of the agenda already. So we're really, really looking forward to the event, and to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into 2 of the sessions that are locked in. So we've got Gus, who will be doing as a service, talking about Workspace ONE intelligence and that, combo between Dell and VMware. So that will be a really great session from 11 to 11:30 Central Time. And then we will have Rocky, who will be doing VDI and Cloud Workspaces from 12:55 to 1:25 p.m. Central Time. So those are just 2 of the many sessions we will be having. We really want to see you there. So feel free to pre-register or join us the day of event. There will be great prizes, great talks, great sessions. We really want to see you there. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Donnie, who is the General Manager of XPS at Dell Technologies. Take it away, Donnie.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Let me know if you can see my screen. I will begin sharing now. And let me just do this real quick. So thank you guys for having me today. It's always a pleasure to get to talk about XPS. We have spent a lot of time and energy trying to create basically what we are extremely proud of, which we consider to be the best PC premium brand in the industry. I inherited the brand back in 2010. At that time, we were relaunching the brand as a multimedia set of products. In the background, we were taking what was the Adamo brand of products, which was our first attempt to basically take a bite out of Apple, that we launched in the 2008 timeframe, and reworking XPS to introduce the first XPS 13 in 2012 in February. It was also our first Ultrabook, hand in hand with Intel, and basically we struggled a little bit with that, to be honest with you. Took us a little while to get our footing, and after a few years of, I'll call them growing pains, we were able to reintroduce the XPS 13 in 2015. codenamed Dino, was our introduction of the Infinity Edge display. And from there forward, kind of the rest has been history. But XPS is our most decorated brand within Dell's history. Dell's been around for about 38 years. I've been with Dell for most of that time, about 139, 140 quarters now, joining in 88, having spent most of my time in PG. But definitely XPS is home. I have the best job at Dell, I think. We basically have found our niche and are basically working on delivering the best absolute products within each product category that we participate in. And we've gotten a lot of results. In 2015, when we introduced Dino, that XPS 13 with the first Infinity Edge display, was the first time in the industry when PCs, which had inherently always been compared to Apple products, specifically the MacBook Air, was the first time we actually started winning those head-to-head comparisons. And since that time frame, basically we've accumulated well over 5,000 excellent reviews and over 1,500 awards. And so we're really proud of that, but by no means are we where we want to be. We've got 1,000,000 miles to go. And just a really short and simple way of how we govern ourselves or how we do what we do from a brand tenant perspective, as is true, I'm assuming, with most products in the industry, everything starts with the customer. We really focus on the customer experience, and over these last 2 to 3 years, I can honestly say that the focus has become even more maniacal around experience and what that actually entails more than ever. And what started or what happened about 2.5 years ago, other than the pandemic, was we reorganized in the client solutions group to fall under one umbrella. We used to be set up in a consumer and a commercial world, and the consumer lines of businesses were absorbed into the commercial world. And the biggest difference between consumer and commercial was basically the level of involvement, investment, and resources that we have around software experiences. And so that has become much more of a focus area for us. But obviously it's a lot more than just software. When we talk about customer experience, we're really referring to the customer journey and every aspect of that. I like to refer to it as basically research to recycle. So it's everything from a customer coming to Dell.com to learn about our product, or going into a Best Buy or a Curry's or a Fnac or whatever installation where we might be featured, and doing some of their research on what XPS is or what a specific product might be, learning about the product, how we service or support that product, to actually the purchase of that product, how simple that may be or not in a lot of cases. How do we educate our customers on our products, to the purchase process, to the shipping and receipt of that product, the UBI, or the out-of-box experience. That first one experience after you push the power button, the packaging, all of those elements that are really fresh and exciting on day one. How do you feel about that product on day 100? What we would love to happen is that you continue to fall in love with your product the longer that you have it. Day 100 should be better than day 1. Day 1000 should be better than day 100, and so on. And obviously, everything that we do is intended to drive a second and a third and a fourth purchase. We really want our customers to be XPS customers for life. And so everything that you see us focused on moving forward, obviously we will never stop obsessing over our products, but a lot more of our attention and a lot more of our focus is now specifically moving towards how do we attract more customers, how do we secure those customers, and how do we satisfy those customers, not just with the hardware or that day one experience, but throughout their life cycle to make sure that we secure them as an XPS customer for their existence. We want to build a loyalty with our customers that rivals what Apple has with their customers. The closest thing to that within Dell on the consumer side is probably with Alienware. I believe they probably have the best following of our consumer brands, and so we want to mimic that as much as we can, but also go beyond that as well. The other two pillars here are basically design. Obviously, we're a heavy design driven brand and set of products. I think we've done a really good job from a design perspective, always pushing the limits. If you look at a lot of our products, we're typically not designing for everyone. We design for tomorrow, not yesterday. And that typically doesn't fit the mold of trying to satisfy everyone. We're usually designing for a more progressive user base, and that's worked out pretty well for us thus far. We have 7 other lines of businesses within Dell that can design for many other types of users. So we're really pushing the limits, focused on younger demographics. We call them young metropolitans, which are Gen Z, Gen Y. 16 to 34-year-olds are primary targets. And so you're going to see really aggressive design decisions made from us, some of which are going to be called crazy and maybe a little too early. But if we're getting that kind of feedback, we're probably headed in the right direction. We may be a little early on some things, but that's really what the intention is for us to do, is to push the PC forward. And it's not really about being safe and conservative. We really do want to push boundaries and push the whole experience forward. Another big piece of that is innovation. XPS is the innovation portal into Dell's client business. And basically what that means is things that we do in XPS today will eventually waterfall, or at least are intended to waterfall, into our other lines of businesses tomorrow. I'll give you some examples. Obviously, we've talked about one, Infinity Edge displays. If we don't pick that technology up and push it into other lines of businesses like Latitude or Precision, what you will see is an influence of those designs. We don't have Infinity Edge in Inspiron, but you've seen over the last several years Inspiron bezels shrink up significantly. So while we may not directly lift the technology into other lines of businesses, you will see influence of some of those innovations. Quite honestly, Infinity Edge displays have influenced the entire industry, right? Even Apple is now shipping very thin bezels, at least to the right and left of their panels. They haven't really figured out the top and bottom yet, but we'll give them time. They'll eventually get there. Another good example is materials. We shipped the first cosmetic carbon fiber material in the industry with that first XPS 13 in 2012. And then you saw that become commonplace over the ensuing years in brands like Latitude and Precision. And so there's many of those types of innovations that I'll use the word easy. It's easy for us to do, to take on the risk of assuming those innovations, because if we fail, it doesn't capsize Dell or even the consumer business. So we are the right type of business to risk innovation. When those innovations hit, it's good for XPS, and then eventually those technologies or processes, whatever it might be, can benefit the rest of our lines of businesses and eventually the industry. we really do strive driving the industry and seeing that shift and take form at other OEMs as well. That's when you really know that you're doing something, you know, right, is when you see your other competitors pick up on it and either mimic it or directly leverage it as well. So those are our pillars. That's basically how we kind of drive our business and our product portfolio and the way we think about XPS. Obviously, this is where I typically pause and ask questions, but we'll save those for the end. Wanted to quickly highlight the products that we brought to market this year. We introduced 3 new products, all of our smaller 13-inch products. That end of the portfolio was all brand new. We launched our XPS 13 Plus at CES, and then we filled out the rest of the portfolio over the next several months. And basically the focus for the new set of products is very similar to what we introduced in 2020 with a twist at the end here, but basically we really wanted to differentiate with 3 new very purpose-built products this year. So we had a very powerful pronounced product that was built around Intel's P28 part with Tributo, and I'll talk in code names today. So the XPS 13 Plus is codenamed Tributo. That was our first introduction at CES. This is basically the new normal for XPS. Expect that the edge-to-edge user interfaces, this is very akin to Infinity Edge displays that were introduced back in 2015. Any new ground-up development efforts that you see in new product categories, in the future are going to look and feel like this. We didn't have the capability to do this across the board this year, but when you look into the future, when we introduce, a new XPS 15 or 16 or 17 or 14, whatever it might be down the road, if you squint and look at this XPS 13 Plus, you can assume that's pretty much how it's going to look and feel, at least from an internal perspective. And again, this is our first product that was really built around the P28 part, so extremely portable. The amazing engineering work that went into this product is the predecessor of this product, the XPS 13, is within fractions of millimeters the exact same size. When the systems are sitting closed next to each other, they're really, really difficult to tell the difference between the two until you open them up. So the insides, that edge-to-edge user interfaces I referred to, are dramatically different, but what's actually inside the box is dramatically different as well. So it's twice the performance, so 28 watts versus 15 watts in the old design, but in the same physical form factor. So a huge engineering feat to be able to deliver that without compromising the form factor at all, and to be able to deliver such a dramatically different user interface. A lot of the user interfaces, especially when you get behind the keyboard, also add some functionality to that new thermal headroom. So the capacitive function row is beautiful. It's very calming. It's not busy, right? We took away an entire row of keys, but it's also super slim. Saves us about 1.5 millimeters of headroom beneath it. That allowed us to actually create more room for the thermals. That's where the SoC lies in the design. We also removed the headset jack from these products, where that headset jack resided in the back of the system. Someone's annotating. I love that. Actually allowed us to push the hinges outward, creating a larger venting area behind the system. And so that also helped with extracting the heat out of the system. And so those couple of changes, while they don't seem really obvious to the customers, created an area that allowed us to significantly improve the thermals without growing the form factor. The XPS 13 in the middle was optimized around, again, another big change from an architecture perspective, around a 9-watt design. I believe we're used to call it Y, then M, now U9. We actually put a fan on this architecture so we can run it a little above the 9-watt, I guess, recommended wattage. We run this product at between 12 and 13 watts. That actually allows us to perform better than the predecessor at 15 watts. And so we're super excited about this product. More traditional in the look and feel. What you'll notice gen on gen here is we went with a machined aluminum enclosure rather than the carbon fiber plus machined aluminum. This allowed us to basically cost reduce this interface a little bit, so that we're able to be a little more aggressive from a pricing perspective. And just to give you guys kind of a little bit of background, when these products were conceived, probably about 3 years ago, Apple still had their traditional 13-inch MacBook Pro and 13-inch MacBook Air designs. And so we were really going directly after that portfolio. And so product on the left would have been a MacBook Pro compete, and product in the middle would have been a MacBook Air compete. And so that's where we have two very purpose-built, very differentiated products in the stack, both from a pricing and a capabilities perspective. And then the twist at the end is all about versatility. Traditional 360s really weren't my cup of tea. I hated the mechanical baggage of the whole 2-in-1 idealism. Our customers in the high price band space weren't really looking for a buy one get one free type of a mentality or narrative, but they were looking for flexibility and versatility. And what you get with a detachable is just that. If you're just looking for consumption, you can easily detach the keyboard. You get the maximum flexibility of just being able to go off and consume. And if you want to have productivity, you can attach a keyboard. You can use it in many different ways with the adjustability of that folio. And so a detachable is a new, I'll call it an investigation of a category for us. This is V1, and we're going to see how this plays out for us. But I think this is a really interesting product for us to go and disrupt a little bit, maybe. I think Surface Pro has been pretty much unchallenged in this space, so we wanted to give them a little something to think about, and we'll see how this one plays out. But we're excited about this area, also with a U9 processor here. This one is passively cooled. A couple of Thunderbolt slots here. Again, a folio attached keyboard. This just launched last month, so we're just getting off the ground with this product, but definitely looking forward to how it plays in the market. So really quick, these are some of the headlines we got from the XPS 13 Plus launch at CES. Took in a few awards, 17 or so CES inclusions, our best of CES inclusions, 15 CES related awards. Again, the form factor wasn't dramatically different. The performance within the form factor was pretty revolutionary, but the big thing that was very different here were the edge-to-edge user interfaces, the seamless force pad with haptics, the latticeless keyboard, and the capacitive function row. You know, a lot of commentary around, you know, this is a very futuristic looking keyboard. We really didn't compromise any of the usability when we went and did our usability testing. And so this is, again, what we believe to be the look and feel of the future. So expect more of this on future designs. And we're really excited about the prospects of this product. For those of you that have seen it, we did have some quality excursions here on this product. All that's been cleaned up, and we're back to running again. So that one caught us by surprise, but we have been able to get that rectified and cleaned up in the marketplace, and we are back to 100% capacity. This is the portfolio. This is what I do all day. We have 5 different products that are available today, and we have a desktop product available in 2 different flavors with regards to color. I'll flow quickly through these. I've covered the 13-inch products, got all our fancy little code names on here. I'll touch briefly on the 15 and 17-inch. These chassis were introduced in 2020. We're on our 3rd generation of Intel architecture here with Fiorano and Stradale both launching Alder Lake back in the spring. Both have ramped very, very well. We have NVIDIA graphics in both of these products, and we'll be introducing Raptor Lake variants of both of these products in Q1, along with the new NVIDIA Gen 21 graphics at the same time. We'll also be introducing a DG2 variant on the 15-inch class, so we can get Evo certification there. Really looking forward to an Intel on Intel solution in that space, seeing what we can do with that. And both of those products are marketed towards primarily creators, but obviously with this kind of horsepower, these are gaming capable designs, and so we do get a lot of our customers that spend probably more time than they admit doing some gaming on these devices. We do our best to make sure that we have balanced performance and portability in these class. You're never going to see us over-index one way or the other on any of this stuff. If I'm ever doing the thinnest or the most powerful of something, I'm usually trading off something that a customer cares about. So we really do try to balance and walk a fine line between performance and portability. Battery life is king for anything that has a battery in it. So you'll definitely see us focus on those 3 elements as best we can. And guys, with that, thank you. I'd like to open this thing up to questions and get you guys involved.
Awesome. Thank you, Donnie. So in the chat, we've got a few questions up near the top. The first one came from Norman, and he wants to know, how you feel about where the XPS fits from a business point of view. He works for an MPS and loves to give his customers good recommendations. So he wants to know where you think the XPS fits between Latitude and Precision Mobile.
That is a great question. If you don't know, at least until the end of this year, both of our 15 and 17-inch products are leveraged into Precision. Those are the Precision 5000 series products. So obviously we changed the color, we changed the branding. We use Xeon processors, and we use a different firmware to convert the same graphics solutions over to a Quadro part. But effectively, our Fiorano and Stradale products are Precision 5000 series products, so very similar. All of our XPS products basically go through the same engineering rigor, the same qualifications, same specifications that our commercial brethren lines of businesses do. We enable vPro on all of our 13-inch products so that we can sell them into enterprise. We run them through what we call config services. So if someone wants a custom image on their system, a corporate image, putting their own applications or own OS validation, whatever, we support that across all of our products. We have about almost half of our business, notebook business, goes through small business and medium business at Dell. We don't have a massive penetration into enterprise. that is typically pretty well controlled by the sales motion. We don't really want to ever displace a Latitude or a Precision sale for all the right reasons, as you can imagine. But we are probably, I won't say probably, we are the most commercial friendly consumer brand on the planet. So yeah, if somebody wants to buy an XPS 13 or an XPS 13 Plus and distribute that to their board of directors at Google or wherever, we can make those things behave just like a Latty 9000, so that it's not it's not like an IT manager has to manage a different set of resources like they would with an Apple product. In that type of an environment, we can make them look and smell just like a Latitude product in those types of circumstances.
Awesome. Thank you, Donnie. Our next question comes from Timothy Page and wants to know a little bit more about the relationship between Alienware and XPS. If you take ideas or share ideas with each other, particularly from the gaming side. So if you take ideas from the gaming side, transform it into creating the XPS, but more towards kind of the personal or business consumer.
No, we don't like those guys at all. We're no, the once upon a time we were actually all on the same team together. Back when Frank Azor was here, XPS and Alienware actually both rolled up to Frank, and we're a very tight knit group. We've lost a little bit of that in the transition, but our front end architects actually still are still in the same engineering organization. So there's probably a ton of leverage. Up until recently, one of our front end architects actually came over from Alienware, and so there has been some cross pollination there. But I will say this: the Alienware engineering team is hyper focused on performance, as they should be. XPS, as I mentioned earlier, takes a much more balanced approach. So we are focused on performance, but within the confines of design and within certain form factor limitations. So we have to sometimes pull them back a little bit, but again for all the right reasons. So there's a lot of shared practices in the engineering area. Alienware is hyper focused on design as well. So we're both very design driven, but obviously the design results are very different, as you can imagine. Lots of cool flashing lights and futuristic design elements on the Alienware products. We're a little more subdued, but also pushing that envelope towards the future as well. Almost, I hate to use the word luxury because that's not really what we are, but very premium is what we're headed towards. So yeah, there's a lot of synergies there. And if we were still in the office on a regular basis, as in pre-pandemic timeframes, we all cohabitated closely together. But yeah, in this brave new world, that doesn't happen as much as it used to. But it's a great question, and there's definitely more synergies between XPS and Alienware than there are with any of the other lines of businesses.
Good to know. Thank you. So now we're going to move to Steve's question. And so Steve had XPS 13s for the corporate users and executives a couple years ago, but encountered regular thermal issues. So Steve wants to know, if that's been addressed and rectified. It would leave burns on some people's desks.
Burns. I've never heard that one. Yeah, Steve, you must be one hell of a power user. So, in circumstances like that, honestly, guys, if we have an issue where it's leaving a mark on something, then you need to reach out to us, and we need to capture that system. There should never these all of these notebooks can get uncomfortably warm, especially when I don't know about Intel's corporate image. I know Dell's corporate image is highly inefficient. and you don't get the ability to do things like we have an application called Dell Power, and that allows you to adjust into 4 different modes. We give our consumers obviously the capability to do this. There's a quiet mode, there's a cool mode, there's an optimized mode, which is what we ship out of the factory in, and then there's a performance mode. Um, Pretty intuitive, as you can imagine. Cool mode is going to run the fans really, really high, right? And you're not going to reach maximum performance. It's going to try to make your skin temperatures as cool as possible. Um, Quiet mode is going to allow the system to get warm and run the fans at a lower pace, but obviously, it shouldn't leave marks on your desk. Optimized mode should give you a good balance, right? It shouldn't be too loud, it shouldn't be too hot. It's not going to give you super, super performance, but it should tackle most average users' workloads. Performance mode is I'm gonna maximize this thing out. It's gonna have loud fans, it's gonna get hot, but I'm gonna give you every ounce of performance that I can give you. And so you know, until we can get to the point from a heuristic perspective to do those things dynamically for the user, between Intel, Dell, and Microsoft's intelligence to get to the point where we can adjust that based on what the customer is actually trying to do with the system. We give those knobs to the customers to be able to adjust. A lot of corporate images wipe those types of applications off the table, and then we're left to basically whatever the system is going to do on its own. But yeah, you shouldn't be burning desks. You shouldn't be burning kneecaps, right? If you guys run into issues like that, Donnie underscore Oliphant at Dell.com. Don't be a hero, right? Contact somebody, contact your IT department. Let's not burn any houses down or mar any desks. These things do run hot, guys. We are arguably pushing the limits on form factor. And we're not to a situation yet where, in a few years, we're going to have architectures that are going to be a whole lot more efficient, and we won't need to run them as hot to keep up with the M architecture from Apple. But yeah, that sounds like an extreme scenario. I don't want to say something was wrong with that system. May not be the case, but if we're actually leaving physical marks that don't wipe off, that's problematic. So again, don't be afraid to reach out to us and tell us, even if it's uncomfortable. Be safe. Just tell us. Our skin temp specs, just so you know, is about 52 degrees C. That's not a safety hazard, but that is uncomfortably warm for a piece of metal to be at 52 degrees C. If you touch that, it's kind of alarming. It's not going to burn you, but you will go, wow, that's hot. But that's shouldn't occur on if you're doing Outlook or something random. But yeah, if you're running a Zoom call all day, if you're doing something where you don't have really good ventilation, that could be a problematic situation for you. But they do run a little warm.
Thank you, Donnie. So yeah, Steve, get in touch with Donnie if you still got those products, because that's something
Yep.
Donnie wants to know.
Donnie IE underscore Oliphant at Dell.com. And guys, I say it, in a little bit in jest, but if you have a critique of XPS products, I love hearing the critique. Don't send me a note and say, hey, great job. We get that a lot. I love to hear what you think we could do better. I genuinely love to hear the critique. That makes us better when we hear the negative comments. So we have thick skin, so don't worry, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Oh, you heard him, everybody. Let him know. Our next question comes from Arnold. Wants to know if there's a touchpad on the XPS 13 Plus.
What's the question again? Sorry.
If there's a touchpad for the XPS 13 Plus.
There is. It's magic. It's invisible. It is a seamless force pad. It's our first force pad. It's got 10 haptics engines underneath it. To give you an example, Apple actually has one haptics engine. Other implementations, I think it was Lenovo introduced one about 18, maybe 2 years ago. And they have single haptics engines. The problem with a single haptics engine is in order to provide the customer feedback, you have to vibrate the system pretty robustly. We wanted to refine that experience and give you extremely sensitized, localized feedback. And so we actually put these 10 engines in different locations. And that does two things for you. One, obviously, when you touch a certain area on the touchpad, it's just going to vibrate that little area. Two, if one of those engines were to go out, we now have redundancy. And so your touchpad will still work. You could have two or three of those engines fail, and you could actually still continue to get haptics feedback. And so this was another area of incubation. We worked on this for a little over 2 years. We actually had a company created to deliver this, and that was a horror story in itself to have over a beer sometime if you really want to know something crazy. But it is our first force pad, so there's no moving parts other than these little piezo engines that vibrate. And you know, we could have put the original design had these two little indentions in the glass to show you where the surface area or the active area of the design was. Wasn't clean enough. I didn't want any delineation about where that touchpad was. We are working on a haptics bump, and what I mean by that is if you're familiar with baseball, the outfield has a warning track so that a player knows if they're tracking a ball that's potentially going to go out of the park. They go from grass to a dirt surface. What we're working on, we can do this through firmware, is when you get to the near the edge of the active or inactive area of that touchpad, call it a 3 to 5 millimeter border around the active area, we're going to give you a little bump so that it'll feel like you actually hit the edge of an old-fashioned touchpad. That's coming. We weren't able to get that done for launch. That's something that we'll be able to update our touchpad, but on future designs, we'll continue to refine and improve that. But yeah, there's a touchpad there. When you receive the product out of the packaging, there's a piece of kind of papery material that's laid in between the touchpad and the display. And that piece of paper has the outline for where the active area is on the touchpad. It also shows you where the power button has an integrated fingerprint reader on it. But that fingerprint reader, it's the power button as well. It's so small we weren't able to get an icon on there that looked right, that fit. So we also have a little diagram on there that shows you that there's a fingerprint integrated into the power button. And there's one other thing on there that I forget that's called out on there as well. But it takes you probably about 20 minutes to adjust. The thing about touchpads are they're not sight driven, so you don't look at them when you use them. So you just kind of have to trust your finger. It works the same way if you had an XPS 13, you know, the old version before this one called Modena. Trust yourself, put your finger down where you normally would, don't look at it, and just go, and it'll work just like the old one does. It's magic.
Awesome. It does sound like magic. So then a few people are wondering if, you know, you guys would be considering putting an optimizer or something like that for the XPS line. A lot of people love the XPS, but they would love something like Optimizer in it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's validated. Optimizer, for those of you that don't know, Dell Optimizer is an application it's the commensurate app to My Dell. So on the consumer products, we have an application called My Dell that is basically it doesn't do this today, but it will soon. It is the combiner, if you will, of all the applications, the Dell applications, and will soon be the combiner of things like the Rivet app to control our Wi-Fi. It'll be the app combiner for things like Waves audio controls. Basically, any application. Today, there's like 19 different applications that we load in our system. Looks like a bunch of bloatware. All that's going to get sucked up into My Dell. That's what Dell Optimizer does on the commercial side today. I don't know if Dell Optimizer gets validated on XPS. It may on our Windows Pro OSs that get vPro and get sold through Enterprise. Um, you can download Optimizer on Dell.com, I believe. You can give it a go. I don't think it'll break it. It may not work fluently or perfectly, but it's a great question, and I can ask the question on whether or not it has been validated. But it can't do too much damage if you load it. You can always unload it.
Good to know. And then another very attentive question is, all the code names, are those just used internally or are they branded that way in the market? So instead
Now
of
we can't.
XPS 13,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't. So if you haven't figured it out yet, except for the desktop stuff, I love German and Italian exotic sports cars, and so if I can't actually drive one, I can name my products after them. So there you go. Now you know a little bit more about me.
And then from Alexander, how do you deal with the different OS systems like the new Windows 11?
Um, well, we typically, unlike our commercial brethren who have to keep track of all the different iterations of Windows 10 and all the back revs, we typically try to stick with the latest and greatest, Windows 11 consumer release, and that's what we ship. We do test and validate some of the back revs. We're still shipping Windows 10 today, I believe, as a downgrade option. In a perfect world, for consumer, we would really just like to do latest and greatest, version of Windows 11, Home and Pro, and be done with it. But obviously, these products um, get sold and get used in all kinds of different environments. We really, again, going back to the customer experience, we're really focused on the combination of known good drivers and configurations. And we have a program called BKC, which is best known configuration, and that specifically centers around drivers, BIOS. It's all software. It has nothing to do with, well, it does have something to do with the hardware, but basically, we are trying to simplify the driver OS combination and BIOS combination to make sure that those combinations are fully validated and have as few bugs and issues that our customers could be introduced to. So we try to keep that OS matrix as simplified as possible. Customers do wacky things, right? Especially on the commercial side when they do pull our products into small, medium businesses and especially enterprise businesses. They might have an OS image from 4 or 5 years ago that they load on our systems, and we sometimes have to deal with that. But from a consumer perspective, we try to keep it latest and greatest.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm learning a lot just listening, and these aren't even my questions. So one more question is, have the expanding batteries gotten any better? It's been an issue for a couple people in the chat over the past couple of years.
Yeah, we had a product, the previous generation of XPS 15, codename was Berlinetta, and that we had 5 generations of that product. We had a battery vendor I want to say it was Simplo that had an issue with one generation that really created some bad experiences for us in the field. And they held up their end of the bargain. It unfortunately almost put them out of business, but battery swelling was a big issue on that product in a in an epidemic way. So we saw that issue a lot on that particular product with that particular brand or vendor of battery. And these things do, right? An anomaly pops up here and there. You will see battery swelling on other products that are outside of that parameter, but those are usually exceptions. But yeah, if you have an issue, if you have an old XPS 15 or quite honestly any Dell product anywhere that has a swollen battery, contact us, complain. We should replace that battery. I don't give a damn if it's 10 years old or 5 years old or whatever. Customer service should replace that battery for you. It shouldn't be a safety risk, but that's not a good vibe. So if you have an issue, especially on XPS 15, if you have that issue, we should replace that battery for you free of charge, no questions asked, for as long as you have it.
Awesome. Thank you, Donnie. And then we've got one last question from Arnold. And Arnold wants to know if any of them can be charged by USB-C and if there's fast charging support.
I don't know what we're pushing out of our. So number one, all of our Thunderbolt ports, and I hope I'm not misleading you, but I know that this is the goal, and I'm trying to think if there's an exception available with anything we have. I'm not going to talk about desktops for a minute, but on the notebooks today, all of our ports should be Thunderbolt, power delivery, and if they're Thunderbolt, right, they're video out. So you should be able to charge from any of those USB-Cs, whether the system is on or not, assuming you have battery charge in the battery. So you don't have to open the system. You should just be able to plug something in and charge your phone or whatever other device you have available. That should be the behavior.